Today I am going to describe more about applications of Gauss law. The first application of Gauss law is to find out the electric field due to an infinitely long straight uniformly charged wire. Consider a thin infinitely long straight uniformly charged wire of linear charge density lambda coulomb per meter. The charge distribution is uniformly throughout the wire, and by this wire we want to determine the value of the electric field intensity at any point P, which is placed at a perpendicular distance of r. Consider a cylindrical Gaussian surface whose radius is r and length is L. Total length of this Gaussian surface is L, and the radius of the Gaussian surface is Gaussian cylindrical surface is taken as r. Then this Gaussian surface contains three area part. First is the curved surface area, second is the top and terminal surface area, and bottom and terminal surface area. I am seeing that you are seeing that the end top surface area have flat surfaces whose direction is just perpendicular and along the parallel to the straight line. If we take a small area element ds, then the direction of this small area element is just along perpendicular to the plane surface, and the direction of the electric field due to this wire at this point is just along this line. So the angle between the area vector and the electric field vector is always 90 degree. Similarly, if we take any small area element at bottom end, then the angle between the electric field and the area vector is also 90 degree at here. If we take a small area element at any point on the curved surface, then we can easily observe that every point existing on the curved surface is equidistant from this linear line charge wire, and the value of the electric field intensity due to this wire at every point on the curved surface is same. If we take a small area element ds which contains this point P or any other point, then the direction of the area vector can be represented as just perpendicular to that point, and the direction of the electric field due to this charge line at this point is also just parallel to the area vector. Hence the angle between electric field and the area vector is here 0 degree. So the total electric flux passing through the surface can be calculated easily by the help of the Gauss law. Now we know that according to definition of electric flux, the total electric flux passing through the surface can be calculated as the total electric flux passing through the flat surface bottom end, that is E dot ds bottom end, and the electric flux passing through the top end, and the electric flux passing through this curved surface. Now we are seeing that the total electric flux passing through the bottom surface is always equal to 0, because the angle between E and ds is 90 degree. If we solve this, then we can find out integration E ds cos of 90 plus this will be also equal to 0, because this becomes equal to cos of 90 plus this becomes, due to curved surface, is E ds cos of 0. So this becomes 0 plus this becomes also 0, and this one is, since we know that the magnitude of the electric field due to this charge line at every point on the curved surface is same, because every point of the curved surface is equidistant from the charge line. So this E can be taken outside from the integration, and this becomes integration of ds. So the total curved surface area becomes total curved surface area. The length of this cylinder is L and radius of this cylinder is R, then 2 pi r L is the total curved surface area. Now according to Gauss law, total electric flux passing through any enclosed surface is always equal to net bounded charge divided by epsilon naught. Here the net charge bounded by this Gaussian surface is provided by the formula, since if the total length of this wire which can be enclosed by this Gaussian surface is L and the linear charge density of this charge line is lambda, then the total charge enclosed by the surface is lambda L. This becomes equation number second, and this one is the first. Now if we compare the equation first and second, then we find out E dot 2 pi r L equal to lambda L epsilon naught. Here L will be cancelled on both ends, and we easily obtain that the value of E is equal to 2 pi 1 upon 2 pi epsilon naught lambda upon r. This is the value of the electric field intensity. Now this can be also expressed as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught 2 lambda by r. And अब if we write this formula in the vector form, then we can easily see that the direction of the electric field at every point on the surface is always just perpendicular to the area vector. So this direction of the electric field is always parallel to the radius vector, that is position vector of this point from the perpendicular the direction of the electric field at this point is always along the direction of r. So this formula can be expressed in the form of vector, like as vector E is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught 2 lambda by r r cap. So this is all about the first application of Gauss law. Now come to the second application of Gauss law. Find out the electric field due to uniformly charged infinite plane sheet. Consider a uniformly charged infinite thin plane sheet of uniform surface charge density sigma coulomb per meter square. Let us consider there is a point P which placed at a perpendicular distance r from this thin sheet, and at this point we want to calculate what will be the value of the electric field? For this, we consider a cylindrical Gaussian surface, cross-sectional area A. The cross-sectional area of the cylindrical surface is A. Also, this contains cross-sectional area A, and the plane ends of this Gaussian surface is parallel to the thin plane sheet. If we consider a similar cross-sectional area at the thin plane sheet, then we find out the total charge contained by this Gaussian surface, which can be enclosed by this Gaussian surface, will be equal to sigma dot A, because uniform surface charge density of this plane sheet is sigma and the area which encloses the charge is A, then the total charge enclosed by this Gaussian surface will be equal to sigma A. Now, the total electric flux passing through this plane ends will be integration of E ds, since we are seeing that this plane surface, for this plane surface, the direction of E and ds both are parallel. So the angle between E and ds are same, and the total net flux passing through this surface will be equal to integration E dot ds, that is integration E ds, and total area of this surface is A, so total electric flux will be EA. If we take some small area element ds at the curved surface, then we can easily see that the direction of the area vector is just perpendicular to the direction of the electric field at this area vector due to this plane sheet. So the angle between E and ds are perpendicular to each other. So total electric flux passing through this surface can be expressed as the total flux passing through this plane surface, that is E dot ds, plane surface 1 plus second plane surface which is equidistant from the plane sheet, as this plane surface is present. So the total electric flux passing through this surface is also plane surface 2E dot ds, the total electric flux passing through the second plane surface, and integration of total electric flux passing through the curved surface. So this will be equal to, since this point is equidistant as this plane area containing point, so both plane area are equidistant from the sheet, so the value of the electric field at each point on this plane sheet is just equivalent to the value of the electric field at each point containing by this sheet. So E can be taken outside, and the value of becomes E ds cos of 0 plus integration E ds cos of 0 plus integration E ds cos of 90. Hence this becomes E integration of ds plus integration E integration ds plus this becomes 0. So this will be equal to E, the integration of ds, that is total area of this surface is A, plus E and total surface area A, so this becomes twice of EA. This is the total electric flux passing through this considered Gaussian surface. So now if we apply the Gauss law, according to Gauss law, then total electric flux passing through the surface will be equal to what? That will be equal to total charge enclosures divided by epsilon naught, that is Q upon epsilon naught. Hence the total charge enclosures by this Gaussian surface is sigma A. So this is equal to sigma A divided by epsilon naught. This is equation number second. Comparing first and second, from first and second, we will obtain that 2EA is equal to sigma A divided by epsilon naught. Here A and A will be cancelled with each other, and so the value of the electric field at this point P becomes sigma upon 2 epsilon naught. By this formula, we observe that the value of the electric field is always free from the distance of this point from the thin plane sheet. The value of R does not depend on the E. So we can find out E is always uniform at everywhere, at every point. Just any point placed on the plane sheet. Any point present at any distance from the sheet. Now, if we write this in the vector form, then this can be easily expressed as vector E is equal to sigma upon 2 epsilon naught dot n cap, where n cap indicates the direction of the electric field that is always perpendicular to the plane sheet. It means the direction of the electric field at every point, at any point just besides the Let us come to the third application of Gauss law, that is electric field due to infinite parallel thin plane sheets of charge. Consider two parallel thin plane sheets of uniformly charged and infinitely long. Then the electric field at any point A, B, C, that is at any point left side, at any point just between the plate sheets, and at any point of right side of the second plane. So we want to calculate the electric field at this point. What will be the value of electric field at this point? At this point, if the electric field due to this plane sheet, then it can be considered as E1, vector E1, and direction is just parallel to the line joining, and the direction of the electric field at this point due to this plane sheet will be just normal and outward. Now electric field due to this plane sheet is equal to vector E2. Its direction is also just parallel to the vector E1. Now if we consider the value of the electric field at any point B, then due to this plane sheet is positively charged, so the direction of the electric field is just along the right side, and the electric field due to this plane sheet at this point will be just along left side, and the electric field at any point C due to first charge is just along right side, and electric field due to this second plane sheet at this point is also along the right side. So at any point A, the total electric field will be equal to electric field due to first plane sheet and electric field due to second plane sheet, and that can be written as sigma upon 2 epsilon naught n cap. If we take the direction of left side is negative and direction of right side is positive, then this can be written as minus n cap plus sigma upon 2 epsilon naught minus n cap, because both have the same direction and direction of the electric field is along left side. So this will be equal to sigma upon 2 epsilon naught, sigma 1 and sigma 2. sigma 1 plus sigma 2 upon 2 epsilon naught and minus n cap is taken outside. So this becomes sigma 1 plus sigma 2 divided by 2 epsilon naught minus n cap. This is the value of the electric field at this point with direction. If we find out the magnitude of the electric field at this point, then this becomes sigma 1 plus sigma 2 upon 2 epsilon naught. Similarly, the electric field at any point B can be expressed as sigma upon 2 epsilon naught n cap, because direction is right side, and sigma 2 upon epsilon naught, sigma 2 upon 2 epsilon naught minus of n cap. This will be equal to, if we take n cap as common, then sigma 1 minus sigma 2 upon 2 epsilon naught n cap. If we take the magnitude of the electric field at the point B, then we obtain sigma 1 minus sigma 2 upon 2 epsilon naught. Similarly, if we want to calculate what will be the value of the electric field at point C, then at any point C, the electric field will be just sigma E1 plus E2. E1 plus E2. The value of the electric field at point C will be vector E1 plus vector E2. That is sigma upon 2 epsilon naught n cap plus sigma 2 upon 2 epsilon naught n cap. So this will be equal to sigma 1 plus sigma 2 divided by 2 epsilon naught n cap. This is the value of the electric field intensity at point C. So magnitude of the electric field intensity at point C will be equal to sigma 1 plus sigma 2 divided by 2 epsilon naught. From these equations, we can easily observe that the electric field intensity contains the same value at the left side and right side from these equations, and between the two plane sheets of same nature, positively or negatively charged, the total electric field is just equal to the difference of the surface charge density divided by 2 epsilon naught. So there are many cases. If we consider the sign of the charges present on the second plane sheet, that is, if we take both plane sheet is negative, then what will be the condition? Direction of the electric field will be just reversed, and you can easily obtain the formula for the EA, EB and DC. So if we take one plate is as positive and second one is negative, then the electric field due to first plate is always just outward, and the electric field due to the second negative plate will be just inward. If you apply this formula, then you can easily obtain the value of EA, EB and EC. Okay, let us come to the fourth application of Gauss law. Electric field due to uniformly charged thin spherical cell. Consider we have a thin spherical cell whose radius is R and center is O, and this cell contains the Q amount of charge over its surface. So if we take the surface charge density of this spherical cell is sigma, this can be expressed as sigma dot 4 pi r square. Now if we take any point P and we want to calculate the electric field intensity at that point, then how can we find it? Suppose that if we take any point P just inside the spherical cell, then if we want to calculate the electric field intensity at this point due to this spherical cell. For this, if the point P is just at a distance of x from the center of the spherical cell, then we can consider a Gaussian surface of radius x whose shape is spherical and symmetrical to the spherical cell. So if we take a small area element at the point P, that is ds, then the total electric flux passing through this cell can be considered as integration of E dot ds, that is E dot 4 pi x square. The total surface area is 4 pi x square, and E can be taken as shape. Now if we apply the Gauss law, then we can find out the total electric flux passing through this enclosed surface is equal to total net charge bounded by that enclosed surface divided by epsilon naught, that is equal to there is no net charge present inside the spherical Gaussian surface. So this will be equal to 0 upon epsilon naught, that is 0. So on comparing these two, what will be the value of E? That is equal to 0. So in the first case, any point present inside the spherical cell, the net electric field is 0. It means the electric field at inside any point, you will obtain that the net electric field inside the thin spherical uniformly charged cell is always 0. Second case, if we take this point is just outside from the thin spherical surface, suppose that like this, here is the point, then if the total distance of this point from the center is x, then at outside point, the total electric field at this point will be equal to will be calculated as how? If we draw a Gaussian surface which encloses this spherical cell, and if we consider a small area element ds at this point, then the value of the electric field at this small area element due to this thin spherical cell is E. Then total electric flux phi is equal to E dot ds, that is direction of E and ds are always parallel, so this can be written as E dot integration ds, that is E into 4 pi x square, and according to Gauss law, what will be the total electric flux passing through this whole Gaussian surface? That is the total Q net encloses by this Gaussian surface divided by epsilon naught. We are seeing that the total electric flux encloses by this Gaussian surface is Q upon epsilon naught, and the value of Q is sigma dot 4 pi r square, or you can write it as Q also. If we take it as Q, then from the equation first and second you will obtain that the value of E is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q upon x square. If we write the value of Q as sigma dot 4 pi r square, then the value of E becomes 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught sigma dot 4 pi r square divided by x square. So 4 pi and 4 pi will cancel with each other, and sigma upon epsilon naught r square divided by x square. This is the formula for the electric field intensity at this point, which is present just outside from the spherical cell, and the direction of the electric field at such type of point is just always along normal to the spherical surface. Now if we consider any point just at the surface of the thin spherical surface, if we consider any point P on the thin spherical surface, then what will be the value of the electric field? This can be easily obtained as by putting the value of x is just equal to r. The value of x is just equal to r. If we reduces the value of x slowly, and after that if we reach at any point on the surface whose distance is just equal to the r, then x is equal to r. By putting it, we can get the value of E is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square. This is the formula for the electric field intensity due to thin spherical surface on its spherical point. So this can be also expressed as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. Value of q is sigma dot 4 pi r square divided by r square. Here 4 pi and 4 pi r square will be cancelled. So the value of the electric field intensity is always sigma upon epsilon naught. In the vector form, it can be expressed as sigma upon epsilon naught n cap. N cap indicates the direction which always present normal to the thin spherical surface. So this is all about the electric field due to uniformly charged thin spherical cell. There are some graphs which represent the variation of the electric field due to this spherical surface with respect to the distance, that is inside to the surface and surface to outside at infinite. So let us draw that graph. This is the graphical representation of the electric field intensity which varies with respect to the distance x. Now this is the thin spherical surface which is uniformly charged, and the electric field inside the thin spherical surface is 0, and the electric field at any point on the surface of this thin spherical cell is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square, and at any point just at any distance x from its center is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon x square. So the electric field just inside the surface is always 0. If we take x equal to 0 at the center, then at this point where x is equal to 0, the electric field is 0, and electric field is 0 until x does not reach at the surface. So electric field is 0, and when the x reached at the surface, the electric field becomes maximum, and its value is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square. This value of the electric field on the surface is maximum. If we go farther than from the surfacial point, then we can easily obtain that the value of x increases, so value of E decreases, because as E is inversely proportional to 1 upon x square. So as we go further from the surface, then we can obtain that the value of E is continuously decreases, and if we go at infinite, then the value of E becomes 0. So at infinite the value of E becomes 0. Similarly at this side is also same graph will obtain. that is E proportional to 1 upon x square, and at infinite point the value of the electric field becomes 0. This is a simple representation of the electric field whose value is 0 at inside the spherical surface and maximum at the surface, and inversely proportional to square of the distance at any outside point. So this is all about the graphical representation of the electric field due to uniformly charged thin spherical surface. Okay, thank you.